HEROware, total recovery in minutes. Welcome to the Hero BCA demo. Today I'll be demonstrating three things: the ease of setup, the real-time replication, and the total recovery in minutes. Today's demo is on the Hero BCA. This appliance protects SPS 2003 or 2008. Here's our Hero Control Center, which you see after you enter your activation code. Our Control Center has our Getting Started guide, links to our user guides, online support, other utilities you may need, and then of course our BCA full server failover wizard. Once you click on the failover wizard, you'll see our Hero failover manager. The failover manager is where you go through the four-step process to set up and configure your Hero BCA. First, you select your source server, which is your SBS server. In this case, it's our Hero SBS. Then you select your target server. The target server is the Hero BCA. So in this case, depending on how you're logged into your machine, you may or may not be asked to provide your user credentials. So here we enter the domain, and we enter the administrator credentials, and we'll log into and have permission to set up the BCA. The next step is to configure protection. Before that, you'll see down below, these are all the settings for both servers. You'll see the SBS, the BCA, how much memory they have, the paths, the system paths. You'll see that the HAL type are different. The HAL versions are different because the BCA does not require that any of the hardware be the same. We don't care what the hardware layer is at all. Next, we configure the protection. First tab is the protection tab. Volumes to include, volumes you can exclude if you'd like, whether or not you'd like to leave specific services running on the target. Down at the bottom is where you enable snapshots. You can enable periodic snapshots so that if there's a corruption on your production box, you can fail over to any point in time. These are snapshots on the BCA. The next tab is the failover tab, where manual intervention required is the default. That means you'll get notified that there's been a failover condition. Do you want to fail over, yes or no? This is by default so that you can get notified and you can check to see if a cable has been unplugged or if a switch went bad. Otherwise, if the server's on fire, you might want to say yes. The network mapping is by default on the LAN, which means that when we fail over, we're going to take all the settings, the NIC settings of the production server. However, if you're across the WAN, you can use the configure DNS settings to change the IP settings of that NIC and then update DNS. This is where you would enter your credentials to do so. And the last tab is the Advanced tab. The Advanced tab is where you set up the route. If you have multiple NICs, you can assign a specific NIC path. The mirroring type is next. Mirroring is either full or checksum. Checksum is default, where it would check both sides to make sure the data is the same on both sides. Enable compression. This is for across the WAN. You can enable three types of compression, either off, minimum, middle, or maximum. And the last two are target revert, reverting the original target, and failing back. Once you've configured the protection, the next step is to validate the configuration. When you validate the configuration, it goes through and makes sure that these systems are set up correctly, that you have the right permissions to set these up, and so that a failover works. Next, the mirroring begins. It's initializing and configuring the server to start mirroring the data from your production server over to our Hero BCA. It's mirroring all that data over your OS, your system state, your applications, and data being mirrored over to our Hero BCA. While your users are still on the box, their replication, any data updates that they are making, have priority over mirroring. So you always have everything that you are working on our BCA as well, along with the mirroring of the full set. So this mirror process takes place. In this case, we've sped this process up to get through this demo a little bit. So once the mirror has taken place, your protection status is now enabled. So you're 100% enabled, and from this point on, byte level changes from your production server are being replicated to our BCA. The data is kept in a non-proprietary state. It's kept in a staging folder on our server, and in that staging folder, you will see that here are the folders from your production box. These are your program files, your registry, your Windows files. Here are all the program files from the SBS 2003 machine. You could go down and open these up and see these, or take a look at your data at any time. I'm going to switch over now to the 2003 SBS machine, where I'm going to create a new file in the program folders, and I'm going to create a new WordPad document. To show the real-time effect, immediately before we can even rename that document, new WordPad document has now appeared on the BCA. I go back over to the SBS 2003 machine, where I can now rename that document. And yes, you've probably guessed it. I'm going to go back to the BCA, and on the BCA, that name, after I've entered here, has now changed over to the HEROware test WordPad document. That document has no data in it, so it's still 0K. If I open it up, you'll see that there is nothing in the document. It is now just a blank shell document. If I go back over to the SBS Server 2003, open that document up, I can now enter data into that document, then show back on the BCA how that data has changed in that document. Now this is the same way it works with SQL, Exchange, SharePoint, Oracle for Windows, any application on your production Windows server. Any application that's writing data, we replicate those byte level changes as they happen to our BCA. So now I've saved that file, and you see that the size of that data is now changed to 1K. So it's now 1K. I go back over to the BCA, and the BCA then changes itself. It is now 1K. And if I open that file up, you can now read, this is the test document to show the speed and ability of the real-time replication within the Hero BCA. So also, let's talk about the attributes. We not only take the files, but we also keep real-time replication of the attributes of that file. So if you needed at any time change an attribute over to a read-only file per se, you change the attribute on your production side, it changes over to read-only. Likewise, on our Hero BCA, the file changes over to a read-only file. So again, we replicate the files, the transactions, the file attributes. All those things are replicated and kept up in real time, so you have an up-to-the-second copy of your production server on our BCA at all times. The next step would be to actually unplug the SBS server. I now unplug the SBS 2003 server. Our BCA is looking for it. It says target server is not there. A failover condition has been met. Would you like to fail over now? Yes, I would like to fail over. I see that the production server is on fire. It's probably a good idea. Let's fail this thing over. Now it's generating a snapshot list looking to see if there are any snapshots, and if I want to, I can then fail over to a specific point in time. In this case, my most recent snapshot is just one. The first question is, shut down source server if running. If you wanted to manually fail over and just do a manual failover, press failover, you could shut down that source server. Here's where you could revert to a specified snapshot. In this case, I'm going to use live data. Now we're going to switch over to a live video screen of the actual failover. I'm now switching over to the live HEROware demo, where I've selected the live data and I've begun the failover process. You can see in the configure protection status failing over 37%, 50%. The BCA is adding the system state of the SBS server and then shutting it down and rebooting itself. So it's applied the system state, applied the appropriate drivers intelligently to not overwrite the drivers needed on the BCA, and it is now rebooting itself, applied that system state, and is coming up as the Windows Server 2003 Small Business Server. So again, the process was replicating and mirroring over the system state, the OS, the data, everything to the BCA, and upon failover, we apply that system state to our BCA physically, reboot itself, and it comes back up as the SBS server. This finalizes our demonstration. I hope you enjoyed it. Please let us know if you have any questions.